Stephanie, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, I think we are now. It's 6:05, and I will still be monitoring the waiting room to determine if anyone else joins us. And so thank you all to the members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and those who just felt that it was important to be a part of this important discussion on this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will turn things over to our president, Mrs. Katrina Owa now, who will bring us greetings and introduce our Pulaski County Clerk, Ms. Terri Hollingsworth.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And good evening, everyone. And thank you to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Beta Pi Omega chapter for this important event. Your vote, Decision 2020 with Pulaski County Clerk, Terri Hollingsworth. I'm Katrina Owa, as previously mentioned, president of the legendary Beta Pi Omega chapter. Your vote matters. And you may have heard an AKA say this before a time or two. This is a serious matter. When we go to the polls, whether in person or by mail this November, there's plenty at stake. Number one, our school board, for the first time in more than 5 years, Little Rock residents will cast a vote for the school board. Number two, our judges. We still have several seats in a runoff. Number three, our legislature. Who will represent you at the state level? Our Congress. Who will represent you in the House of Representatives and the Senate? And our president, who will lead 1/3 of our federal government. We hope this hour is insightful and provides clarity on your options for voting in this election, and that you gain an understanding that you can share with family and friends. Ultimately, we want you to feel confident about your rights and responsibilities for the upcoming election, and then go vote. This event is being recorded so that we can share via social media and our website, betapiomega.com, at a later date. I would also like to acknowledge Circuit Court Judge-elect Tawana Bird and State Representative Joyce Springer, who are joining us on this evening. We also have State Representative Jamie Scott, who is not here on this evening, but these three women serve in our organization, and they are also serving you as elected officials. A special thank you also to our Connection Committee leadership, Mrs. Stephanie Jackson, who serves as chairman, and Ms. Pat Person, who serves as co-chairman, and their entire committee for hosting this event. So now let's go ahead and dive into our reason for being here on this evening. Terri Hollingsworth, our Pulaski County and Circuit Clerk, was elected in 2018 and is the first African-American woman elected to a Pulaski County-wide executive position. The clerk's office touches the lives of thousands of Arkansans and businesses. From marriage license to voter registration, the responsibilities of the clerk's office are vast and varied. The clerk is the voter registrar and real estate recorder for the county. The Pulaski County Clerk's Office provides administrative and record-keeping support to the 17 circuit court judges of the 6th Judicial District. The office also works closely with attorneys and title companies to record and index all land transactions conducted in the county. Of special importance at this time, she is a graduate of Howard University in Washington, D.C., a status that she shares with a certain vice presidential candidate. Terri, thank you so much for joining us on this evening. The floor is now yours.
Well, thank you, President Owa. Is that how am I pronouncing it correctly?
Owa, like Noah.
Okay, Owa. Thank you, President Owa, and thank you to Beta Chi Omega chapter for having this presentation. I think that this is wonderful. I knew that AKAs would definitely show up, so I'm proud to be here. Thank you. And thank you to Stephanie Jackson for making sure that this got done, as well as with my staff. So ready when you guys are. So we're here today, of course, to talk about voter registration, the deadlines and key dates, and also about voter restoration of rights and how to vote and possibly poll workers. So hopefully we'll have enough time to do all of that. Stephanie, you ready to start the?
I am, and you know, of course, whenever you're ready to start doing something, you always forget to hit the one last button called share. So how about I hit that button now?
Okay, perfect. All right, you can go on to the next slide, please, ma'am.
Okay.
Of course, the election is 82 days from today. And so we're getting excited and we're getting all ready for everything. Right now in the office, we're certainly getting ready to get absentee ballots out. And I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. But of course, the last day for Arkansans to register to vote to participate in the November 3rd election is October 5th. The first day of early voting is October 19th. The last day to request an absentee ballot is October 27th. And we certainly want folks to ask for it now so that that can help us as we're getting our ballots together. And then the last day to update your address is October 30th. The last day of early voting is November 2nd. And of course, election day is November 3rd. So let me talk about the numbers since we're right here with these dates to remember. So as of today, we have 252,712 registered voters. And so that's about 1,200 more than what we had, 12,000 more than what we had in 2016 around this time. So we've really jumped in registration numbers, which is great. And so absentee ballots as of today, because I had an election meeting today with my staff, and we have, I'm on the wrong page, I'm sorry. We have 7,463 folks who have requested an absentee ballot. And this time in 2016, we only had about 1,500 people so who requested the ballots. So definitely we're like 300% over what we normally have. In 2016, we sent out about 8,000 ballots or 8,000 absentee ballots, and maybe got about 54% of those ballots back. But right now, as you can see, since we're at 7,000, we're already getting close to that 8,000 ballots that we've sent out. And we're thinking that we'll probably have about 20,000 ballots, at least applications, by the time November election comes. Of course, as I stated earlier, the last day to actually ask for an absentee ballot is October 27th, but we're asking folks to do it now. So that helps us with the planning of how much postage we got to do, how many ballots actually have to be printed on the front end, and all of those things that go along with this absentee balloting process. We are also looking at the possibility of, actually we're developing our strategy to have a way that folks can drop off their absentee ballots. I know folks are concerned about the mail and if their ballot will actually get back, but we're trying to develop a strategy on how folks can actually drop off their ballot and maybe have almost like a drive-through or a Chick-fil-A line so that that can be done. But so it's well within the law that voters can certainly drop off their ballot at the clerk's office, but we feel like we're just gonna have more than usual. So we want to make sure that we set it up for an easy process for everyone. Let's go to the next slide, please.
Okay. Hold on just a second. My computer's doing something funny.
How do you want, we're doing questions at the end? Is that what you think is best?
Well, I have asked a connection committee member to monitor our chat box. And so Judge-elect Byrd, or do we have any questions as of yet? Or I would
not as of yet.
Terry, you tell us how you would like for us to do the questions.
Let's just do it at the end. I think it might make it a little better and a little easier there. Especially if they put it in the chat, then that way Judge Byrd can monitor that and have all the questions.
Okay, and please, give me just a second here. My computer is dead. I don't know if it's frozen or what, but it is not allowing me to advance or exit out of this.
Well, no problem. While you're doing that, I also make sure that I explain that if you are considering the absentee balloting process, again, do it now, but you got to pick one way that you're going to actually vote, because if you decide to apply for an absentee ballot, and then when early vote comes, you say, well, let me, I think I just want to go ahead and early vote. Then when you go to the polls at that particular time and there's a ballot out there that was your absentee ballot, then you will have to vote provisionally. So that just brings on, so which means after they do the research to make sure that you didn't fill out that absentee ballot and send it in, then they will make sure your vote gets counted. So you need to figure out, from the beginning, do you want to do absentee? Will you possibly go and social distance doing early voting, or, just go on election day? Okay.
Okay. I think I've got it worked out with the help of some savvy ladies. So I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
And I apologize about this.
No worries.
Okay. Does everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. We're back.
We're back. Okay. So these are some tips for if your organization is going to go out and do voter registration. And I think that you guys have probably been through this particular training before, but you know that numbers 1 through 11 definitely have to be filled out. And we have it highlighted there in the yellow or the gold. They have to make sure they write legibly so that we can be able to decipher what it is they're saying. Make sure that the highlighted areas are completed. Make sure they use blue or black ink. And they have to make sure that they actually sign the form. You see there where it says Terri Smith, our example, we want to make sure that they sign the form. And then, if you will, we want to make sure that you return the form back to the Pulaski County and Circuit Clerk's office here at 401 West Markham. That just makes it easier for us to be able to get it done quicker than what the Secretary of State will do. Next slide, please.
Okay. Wait a minute now. Oh, now wait a second. Maybe I should have given this responsibility to someone else.
Not a problem. As you're doing that, I just want to make sure that that we have at least 3 ways to vote in Arkansas. Election day, and the polls will be open from 7:30 to 7:30, as you all know, by absentee ballot, and then also early voting, which starts October 19th. And early voting there should be a lot of ways to be able to social distance. We have purchased, or actually the state has purchased, the PPE, so there will be a mask worn by all of the staff. There will be, hand sanitizer there, and there's even a stylus with you that you will vote with that you can take home that says I voted. So just want to make sure that we're trying to make it as safe as possible for you.
Terri, do you see this next slide?
I do. Restoration of voting rights.
Okay.
All right. So Arkansas is one of 21 states that allows people convicted with a felony to restore their rights to vote after, of course, they've been discharged from parole and satisfied all of their fines and restitutions. So many Arkansans don't know that this is an option. So we're fortunate that our state law allows this opportunity. We want to get the word out to all those persons who've satisfied all their fines and restitutions. We want them to be able to vote. So when a formerly incarcerated person has completed all the requirements and has their discharge papers, and they are ready to come down here, they can contact the voter registration department and begin the process. Of course, the number is 340-8336. And we can also help them with record sealing and the restoration of their voting rights, because that process is very similar. But again, all they need to do is certainly call our voter registration department at 340-8336, and we will make sure that that gets done. The absentee ballot application, thank you. So some people may choose to vote by absentee, and certainly, as I told you, we're seeing a big increase in that. But I want folks to understand that it is a cumbersome process. There are some folks who don't have computers at home who need to make a copy of their ID to make sure they put into the absentee ballot packet. Of course, my staff doesn't like for me to do it, but this is what the packet looks like. And there's another envelope that you have to make sure that all of this stuff is in there. And they have to make sure that they sign the voter statement and make sure that when you sign the voter statement that you're also making sure that you put the right dates there, because it asks for your birth date. And a lot of times the mistake folks make, they put their actual, they put the actual date that they filled it out. But let's just get to the application first. So in the application, you see the highlighted areas. As you may know, the governor actually did a proclamation that states that COVID is a reason for you all to vote absentee. I know I had a call today and a lady was really concerned about the fact that COVID was not on the actual list of reasons. And she was concerned that because of perjury that we might, I guess, prosecute her. And I told her that of course, the governor had already done a proclamation which guarantees that if she checked that first box that states, I will be unavoidably absent, then she can certainly vote absentee. But I'm encouraging those of you that may be like me, who go to work, who actually go to Kroger, that maybe your choice is to do early voting and do the social distancing there, which make sure that you vote that way. Let's see, so on the next thing, where it says I reside, it says I reside within the county in which I'm registered, and that's where you would check that box. Then you come down to it says I request the appropriate absentee ballots for the following elections. We only have one more election this year, and that's the general election / nonpartisan runoff and general election runoff. And so you would check that particular box. Remember, you have to, if you're going to vote absentee, you have to request that every year. It's not something that's automatic that it will stay in this particular status. And then down where it says I will receive my ballot by, and then it says check one. There's you would either come to the office and pick it up, or electronic means, which means that's only for folks who are our overseas folks, like in the Army or in the armed services. And then it says mail, you check mail, and that's certainly a place where, especially a college student, would put their actual mailing address right there in those 3 lines. And we would make sure that it gets mailed to them at their college. Or if you don't check any of those, it'll certainly go where it says your voting residence, city, town, and then you have to sign, the voter has to sign. Please remember that if you have a designated bearer to pick up your ballot or to bring it back, that designated bearer can only do 2 absentee ballots. So that means that if I need to pick up one for my mother or for someone else in my family, I can only do 2. Whereas an administrator of a nursing home can actually do as many that are in that particular nursing home. Mm-hmm. So that's what, Arkansas law is, okay? So that's the absentee ballot application.
Terri, may I interject and ask a question about the application? Because this is something you and I had a text exchange about, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. I was asking about how my church might even get involved with picking up ballots or picking up application, that type of thing. Churches cannot be a receiver of ballots and then bring them to your office, correct? We cannot do that.
That's correct. Churches cannot be receivers of the ballot because they are not administrators of a nursing home, so they can't do that. Now, they can print off as many as they want of these particular absentee ballot applications and give it to their parishioners if they like, and they can drop those off. But that's the application and not the actual ballot.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Stephanie?
Well, we did have a few questions in the chat, but you Do you want to answer those now? You want to?
Well, let's just go for it. Let's see what's in the
Okay,
chat.
there are several I think that are related to what you're talking about right now.
Okay, that's fine.
You ready for me?
Judge
Sure.
Berg, will you please go give us those questions?
Sure. And one I might have prematurely answered for you, but should my college student that will be voting for the first time fill out an absentee voting application? She will not be in the county.
Yes. Your college student should fill it out. Yes.
And then there's a follow or a second question related to that. Do you recommend that our college students come home to early vote if they can versus voting absentee?
So I have some big concerns about the mail, and that's my personal feel. And I know you guys have seen things in the, in the news and that kind of thing. If that child is able to come home, I would say yes, let them come home and early vote. If they're not able to, then certainly I think they should make sure they put that ballot back in the mail early enough so that it can get here by voting day.
A next question is, I checked mail-in as my preference to return my absentee ballot on the application. May I bring the ballot to the courthouse instead?
You can bring your ballot. The law allows that any voter can bring their ballot to the courthouse. And again, I think I was telling you earlier that we're trying to come up with a strategy where voters can actually drop off their ballots, stay in their cars, so it'd be as less contact as possible. So we're working on that. We want to make sure that we have that in place by early voting so that folks can actually utilize it.
And as a follow-up to that, will there only be one drop-off location in Pulaski County?
Because of budget reasons, yes. We never predicted anything like this would happen, and we don't have mail-in voting like you have in Oregon, where they have drop-off locations all over their state and all over, the different counties. Oh, what was that?
I got a text. I got a text. Someone, if they don't know how to use the chat, then they have to send it separately, and I'll get to it in just a moment. Here's another question. Were you finished? I'm sorry.
No, I'm finished. I was waiting for if you had another question.
Yes, I do. I have filled out my form to transfer my voting site and address. However, if this information is not complete by early voting, will I still be able to vote with my previous or prior information at my old voting site?
So yes, you still will be if that information is not updated, but I'm going to tell you, my staff is going to update it. So you won't have any problem. You can send that information in. You can call us, within the next 3 or 4 days after that, and we can check and make sure it's correct for you. Or you can go to VoterView. Is it voterview.com? Voterview.com and look it up from the Secretary of State's website. Is it? Yes, voterview.com.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our postal service workers has responded to this question, but we'll let you answer as well. I've heard that you need to use a first class stamp to ensure timely handling through the mail. Is that true?
And
the postal employee said, yes, as a postal employee, I can state that first class postage is needed.
Not only is first class postage needed, but they're going to need 3 stamps, which is another thing that, again, folks who, may not be able to have their ID copy, they may not buy stamps. So you run into, some of these issues in terms of actually trying to get this absentee ballot back. So it's definitely, folks got to make sure that they're ready for this particular process.
And that postal employee also, I guess, was feeling that you might get to that, said to piggyback on my previous answer, most people forget to put a stamp on their applications. Also, please, please don't wait until the last minute to mail. We do our best to get mail processed and delivered in a timely manner, but we cannot work miracles.
Thank you so much for saying that. I agree. People forget to put a stamp. Again, people make common mistakes. Very learned people that may end up putting, they might put the day that they're filling out this information instead of actually putting their birth date. They may not put a stamp. They're just trying to make sure that they get it done and get it done, I guess, quickly. And sometimes you have those common mistakes. But thank you for saying that.
question again. The next question came by text message, and it says, and I'm not sure I understand it, but hopefully you will. Can the caregiver check number 1?
On the application, is that what you're referring to?
That's all the question said, so I'm not certain.
Okay, well, if the caregiver can check, I will be unavoidably absent if that's what, yes. But the caregiver also has to sign down at the bottom as well, that they're the ones picking up the ballot as well, so.
And then, Madam Clerk, the last question that I've seen so far is, what provisions are being made for in-person voting in terms of COVID safety?
So the provisions being made for in-person voting are that the polling sites will all be equipped with PPE. There will be social distancing in all of those particular sites. Staff workers certainly will be practicing the health guidelines, and wearing masks. And then if there's anybody who forgot their mask, they'll make sure that they have those. We have disposable styluses to vote with, and you can take with you. So and of course, certainly hand sanitizer, everything will be there, and the machines will be distanced as well, depending on the location. So we're trying our best to make sure that it's a healthy process for everybody to vote.
Madam Clerk, I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Judge Byrd.
We have 2 more.
Okay.
I requested a mail-in ballot. So now does that mean I won't be able to early vote instead of mailing it in?
If you requested an absentee ballot and you decide right now that you don't want to go through the absentee process, and before we send out the ballots September 17th, we can reverse what you've done. Is that what the question, is that what they're asking?
I think that's what they're asking.
Sounds okay.
We can reverse that. But once we are scheduled to send out ballots September 17th, once we send out those ballots, then they're going to be in the mail. So again, and if you decide you want to go to early vote or election day, then you will have to vote a provisional ballot. And actually during during early vote time, there will be 2 Saturdays where folks can vote as well. So it's going to be plenty of time to social distance. The main thing is we have got to get people out there to actually vote. Again, I told you we have 250,000 plus people registered to vote, but we need at least 200,000 people going to the polls to vote.
Okay, and then we've been seeing in the news the concerns about having an adequate number of poll workers. And so this question is about what the process is to become a poll worker.
I am glad that you asked that question. We need poll workers. We always need poll workers. We have on board, where's my name? Of course, I have all these notes and then I don't have enough notes, right? So the average poll worker is 73 years old. And certainly we need more young people who are actually wanting to be poll workers. I know that we have a pool of about maybe 200 or so who have actually applied to be poll workers. And right now we continue to do the survey of those who said that they will be. And I can't, we had a number in terms of 403 said yes.
Okay.
243 said no. So that's why we need anybody who wants to be a poll worker to go to www.votepulaski.net, fill out that particular application, and they can certainly be a poll worker. Please know that we have opportunities too for folks to actually volunteer if they're trying to get volunteer credits and that kind of thing. Folks can actually volunteer to be a poll worker, but they have to know that it's going to be at least an 8-hour stint being at that polling site or that early vote site.
Now, is the poll worker position, I heard you say volunteer, but I saw something from a celebrity that I follow on Twitter, Kerry Washington, and she said, poll workers get paid, just saying. do poll workers get paid in the state of Arkansas, or is that strictly all volunteer?
Poll workers get paid in the state of Arkansas. That's why I said, actually, if you could go to that particular website and sign up to be, there's a questionnaire and an application. Yes, poll workers get paid. It's minimum wage, and you get paid for that particular day or however time that we have you. You have to go through a training, and we're starting to train folks now. So you have to go through a training to make sure that you're not asking them if they are Republican or Democrat, that kind of thing, so, but yes.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to take a moment just to make sure that the members of the Beta Pi Omega chapter and all members of Alpha Kappa Alpha are aware that is one of the tenets, if you will, of the strategic plan that our corporate office has laid out for us, which is to, if you can be a poll worker, be a poll worker. So I know, the age is an issue because, the older you are, you become a part of that vulnerable population category for COVID-19. And so if you fall outside of that, younger women or younger people, please consider being a poll worker. And that that website is on your screen, the lower right. If you guys can see the screen, I hope you can. VotePulaski.net, Terri just referred to.
Yes. And again, when I mentioned that, in terms of, there are some that can volunteer, they get community service hours. If, we do have some folks who volunteer, and I know that we've got some young people that are, trying to get into college next year, and so they may want to consider that particular option. But the poll workers definitely are going to have at least about 20 training sessions, and that'll be social distancing as well as they're doing the training. We've got some, I guess, somewhat new equipment. That's why some people be using a stylus. We've got some new poll books. It's electronic poll books. So it's not like the old days when they used to have to open up a book. Now it's electronic, and then we go from there. So it's going to be an awesome experience voting this time.
Madam Clerk, is the training for poll workers paid training?
Yes, the training is paid.
I have a question regarding the printing of your driver's license or copying of your driver's license that you would have to return with your absentee ballot. One of the things that I've been hearing from a few people is as we have more people trying to do absentee ballots this year, for many of those individuals, they may not have access to a copy machine. Is your office, or are you aware of any places that are making their copy machines available for the copying of driver's licenses that you have to, return with your ballot?
So my office has not made a decision to do that. Plus because the courthouse is closed, we may not be able to do that efficiently. And we have been talking to several groups who are actually going to get some of those old Polaroid cameras. You remember how it used to make that picture right there on the spot, that instant picture? We got a couple of organizations that are talking about actually purchasing those particular kind of cameras, so that way they can help those folks out there who do not have a copier at home or access to a copier to make a copy of their ID. Okay. And I think that's a great idea.
So we would be able to snap Polaroids and have that be a part of the packet that's returned with the ballot?
Yes, ma'am. And you can take it, folks can actually take a picture with their cell phone. You just got to have a way to print it. And that becomes the issue with a lot of people. How do you print it?
Right. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
We do. I had myself on mute, sorry. Someone wants to know when the poll worker training will start.
I believe poll worker training has started because we already have, some of those other ones who are coming back. So, but there's always going to be plenty of trainings because there's at least 20 of them. And definitely if you go to that VotePulaski.net, you should have more information about that. That's usually done by the Election Commission, not actually done by my office.
Okay. And someone just mentioned for information purposes, if public libraries are open, they have copiers. So that might be useful to someone. Here's a question. Please ask when the training sessions, okay. Do volunteers have the option to sign up for specific training session time slots?
Certainly, you would have to talk to the election commission. If that, I believe that they can, but you would definitely have to confirm that with the election commission. That's the first time I've had that question, so I don't have an answer, a direct answer.
And here's another, just for information, it says that the Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock will copy ID and provide stamps for anyone at a drive-through location.
Oh, very good.
Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock. That's a great thing.
That's a great thing. I hope they're going to put that information out there on Twitter and Instagram and all of that.
And then we have another, just for information, if you have access to Google Photo, you can send to CVS and print for 33 cents.
Oh, okay. That's good too. So I want to make sure that you know that you get any forms, voter registration applications, and they can be requested and or turned in here at the clerk's office. The Spring Street entrance, since the courthouse is closed, you can certainly return your applications for absentee by email. You can call us on the phone and request one. You can request one via fax. And of course, we can mail you something, or you can mail in your application. And always, you can come in person. Even though the courthouse is closed, we still have a makeshift office that we're seeing folks come through on our Spring Street side. So we're here to serve, whatever we can do to help you.
And the voter restoration information, I know it's available on the website. Are there any hard copies for distribution that the clerk?
We do have a brochure that I can send to your president or Stephanie, and then she can distribute it to your organization.
Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate what you heard Katrina say, Madam Clerk say. We need people to vote. We need everyone to be responsible for taking one person. Can everybody commit to, you know what, I'm going to make sure that I can grab one person, make sure they're registered, and then make sure they actually go to the polls, whether that's absentee or in person. Terri, I have a question regarding, I guess probably more so trying not to clog up the system, if you will, with absentee if you are able-bodied and can go to the polls. Is there a push or, statewide, locally, for people who are able-bodied, go to the polls? If you can't, let's leave those ballots for those more vulnerable populations.
Stephanie, I'm glad you asked that question, because I can tell you that when I first, when we started talking about COVID, I was dead set on I was going to even absentee vote myself. But then once I started looking at the process and how cumbersome it could be, and the mistakes that they're just common mistakes to that your ballot may not get counted, I just decided, and plus after I knew that I was going to Kroger or Home Depot and I'm going to work, I decided that I was definitely going to early vote. And so I've been urging my friends and my relatives who are doing the same to actually look at early voting, because we want to ensure that our vote gets counted. Mm-hmm. Now, because absentee ballots, especially with the way this mail is going, it's very scary. Mm-hmm. And we all want to make sure that our vote is counted. And I want to make sure that the voting process is a good one for the voters in Pulaski County.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions, final questions from anyone? The time just flew by. I mean, it's 6:44, but I feel like we've covered so much in this short amount of time.
Time flies when we're having fun.
It does, doesn't it?
Voting is fun. Tell all your relatives.
Yes. I see people committing to doing this. So, I'm hopeful that our chapter can be a part of the change to make sure we can get our family members, our friends out to the polls. We cannot sit at home or not put that stamp on that envelope. We can't procrastinate. We've got to get out there. So
exactly. And if any of you all need, certainly call here if you have any questions. We'll be happy to help you through whatever process that you need.
Excuse me, please. Sounds like we're wrapping up, and I didn't want to take the time to type this. I really tuned in to have a description of the envelopes, what went in what envelope. Now, I know your staff doesn't like for you to do that, and so for whatever reason, we'll take all that into consideration, but can you familiarize us with those envelopes? And
yes, ma'am, I certainly will. I certainly shall.
That's the only reason I'm here today.
That's the only reason
Keep it 100.
You're going to end up getting a packet like this with the blue strip. We tried to make sure that the outer envelope had the blue strip. Can you hear me? And then you're going to get another envelope. That's what you're going to actually turn back. You're going to have a voter statement. Of course, you're going to have the actual ballot. And you're going to have a ballot only envelope number 1. So you have to read the directions where you have to mark the ballot. Of course, you place your ballot in ballot envelope number 1 once you mark it. So then you seal this ballot, and then you place the sealed ballot and envelope in the yellow one, number 2. Then you make sure you complete the voter statement and you return it all inside this particular yellow form, and you have to make sure that your ID is copied and your ID is also in that form as well. So that's it. That's why I said you get one big envelope, and then you have these 2 envelopes.
Your angle is such that they can only see half of what you're showing.
Okay.
And so someone has asked for, cover your, thank you.
Sorry, I had to make
you
sure
can also make that a speaker view at the top. If you, at the very top right corner, you should be able to hover over something that says speaker view, and that should be able to make the person speaking, large. That should help. Oh, and Katrina just put it in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, so again, you get this whole packet and you'll have these 2 envelopes that are in it, and then you put your ballot in one envelope and then you return it back with this particular envelope.
With 3 stamps?
With 3 stamps. The governor has said he was not paying for return postage. We do not have the budget for it. And certainly we usually only budget for about 8,000 absentee ballots. We're scheduled to get 20,000. So we're going to have to, that's why I'm asking folks to, do it early if they want to actually do it, absentee ballot, so that we can prepare for it and make sure that we get all the requests taken care of. Because as you know, we have to do that on the front end and then possibly get reimbursed by the Secretary of State on the back end. So again, those different envelopes, you got your ballot, you have your voter statement that we actually put in red to try to make you go understand that, hey, you got to fill this out, and it has the instructions on the back, and of course where you fill out the information.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that red sheet goes where?
This red sheet actually goes. So the ballot goes in this envelope, and then this envelope and this red sheet actually go in this envelope, which is the one you return back.
Nothing goes in the ballot envelope except the ballot.
Exactly.
And everything else goes in the large envelope, if I understood you correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that's where sometimes we run into an issue. We won't know until voting day when we open these, or when the election commission open, if you actually, put the information, if you didn't put it in the other envelope, we don't know if it's actually in here. And if we don't see it, then that ballot doesn't get counted.
So the only thing you are, when you all get that packet, if that ballot is not in that envelope, or if the red form is in that envelope with it, that ballot is not counted.
So it depends. Right, and the reason why I say that is because what we do, when they call it canvassing, that's another thing that the executive order that the governor has let us do. Canvass early, meaning what we do is we will go in and we'll separate, to make sure that you follow directions, that make sure that you sign the voter statement, you put your ID in there, and then we put that ballot. We say, okay, that's good to go. We won't actually, because we don't get a chance to count the ballots until election day. And then sometimes people put this information actually in there where they put the actual ballot. And so then we can, if it's in there and everything's correct, then that ballot gets counted. If it's not in there, that ballot may not get counted. So it's going to be different situations, especially if they don't read and follow directions.
And I might have missed this because I'm not the most tech savvy, and I was trying to filter between the chat and listen. In terms of the identification, the photo ID, when is that submitted and where?
That is submitted after it goes in the envelope, so it's submitted in this particular envelope here. Okay, so the voter statement and the copy of your ID, along with the ballot, go in this envelope.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There was a question, I saw this in the chat while you were giving that explanation. When should the ballot be expected? So I guess that's after you all mail them out on the 17th, or start mailing them out, you'll start getting them at that point.
Yes, the plan or the date that we're supposed to mail those out is September 17th. So you should get those anytime after that. And then I would suggest that you go ahead and fill those out. Once you get it, you can bring it by the courthouse then if you like. We'll certainly be accepted. All voters can drop it by the courthouse at any point in time that they like. Certainly welcome for that. But just know that the courthouse you can't just walk in. There's probably going to be a line outside, that kind of thing. But just be prepared.
I bet I'm going to know the answer to this, but we did get one more question. Can we obtain a sample absentee ballot with the envelopes to demonstrate to folks?
So I may be able to get one to your chapter. I can't say that everybody can have one because we only order really usually enough just to send out to the absentee ballot of folks. And right now we're in a reorder because, again, we're up at 7,000 already.
And aside from this Zoom, I know you've done additional ones. Is there your staff doesn't like for you to do it, so I'd imagine there may not be this availability on the clerk's website, but we can certainly replay your demonstration from this video.
You can certainly replay my demonstration, and actually next week we are working on our next set of videos that will actually go through this particular process and show everybody which ballot is what and what the voter statement is. And it'll actually, the PowerPoint will actually have all that information in there.
Great, thank you.
And this might be something that the connection committee that we look at doing. I know I'm going to be a designated bearer for my daughter's ballot. She's voted absentee for the past 3 years that she's been in college. This will be her, this won't be her 4th time because she's voted in every election since she's been away. It's been more than 3 elections, but for the last 3 years, she has been voting absentee. And so there might be a way that one of us, I know there's even someone else who has a daughter who on this meeting, and she might be the designated bearer for her. So we might be able to pull together and create that demonstration too and record it and then make that available on our website and our social media.
Very good. And we're also in talks with the Central Arkansas Library, even to do maybe even a more professional video to make sure that we can put that on our website and certainly the library's website as well. So we'll let you know more about that once we get that taken care of. So we're trying our best to make sure that this process is going to be not only safe, but efficient and certainly a good voting process in the midst of this pandemic. And if you have any suggestions, we certainly are open to them. And we just want to make sure we get folks out to vote. They have got to vote.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know we can't all clap for you, but I'm going to just clap on behalf of everybody who's watching. Thank you so much. This was very insightful, and I feel even more energized after hearing this to make sure that I'm a part of the solution this year. So
I am so thankful to your chapter for doing this. This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I know we're about to jump off and everyone goes their separate ways. President, Madam Katrina, do you have any closing words before we all have to get out of here?
I just want to say thank you again to Ms. Terri Hollingsworth. We were so excited when you were elected, and thank you for all that you're doing to ensure that we receive accurate and timely information during this election process. We know you and your staff are working hard, probably lots of hours, and you're thinking about things all the time just to make sure that the residents of Pulaski County have what they need. So thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Yes, and to all of those who are members of Alpha Kappa Alpha and guests, whether you are here on behalf of someone, you may be representing your church, this is important. And so we appreciate you for having these resources available to us and for us. And I will be sure to work with my church. We're doing the same thing so that we are giving information to everyone. To the Connection Committee, you all are amazing.
They rock.
Come up with to just inform us, engage us. There's a certain conviction that comes with wanting to make things better, and you just have to have that right niche to have people to buy into that, because whether you decide to act or whether you do nothing, a decision was still made. And I think that's what we have to remember during this election process. So thank you, Mrs. Jackson and Ms. Person and Ms. Bird for serving as our chat monitor, and all of the members of the Connection Committee. And just look for what our chapter and our sorority will be doing. It's 80 plus days, I know, leading up to the election. And we are looking forward to being partners with you in the community to make sure that your voice is heard, because elections do matter, and as I have said, and they have consequences. Thank you so much for this time.
Amen. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your evening. Thank you so much again, Madam Clerk. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.